Dr. Love Jones is a mindset coach, motivational speaker, and author of his recent book, Level Up: How to Start Living Your Best Life. I recently checked out the book at a local bookstore in Cocoa Village called Hello Again Books. He was there doing a book signing from Kissimmee, Florida. I feel that mental health is such an important topic, especially now amidst a global pandemic. We could all use some inspiration in leveling up. All right, let's go ahead and meet Dr. Love Jones.
Perfect. So I am Devon, Dr. Love Jones. I'm an author, speaker, coach. I recently published my first book, Level Up: How to Start Living Your Best Life Now. And me and Misti met at the bookstore, and we connected from there. And she also supported one of the books. So I am grateful to be on this platform, grateful to be here, and let's go.
Awesome. I love it. So you are a mindset makeover coach, which I feel many of us could use this in our lives right now, especially during this time. We're living in a pandemic. It's been a crazy year. So what drove you to this path?
Okay, so we drove through to this path is because I had to do a mindset makeover on my own. So um, my background being a person that grew up from the inner cities of North New Jersey, going through the special ed system, there are certain things that I learned based off my behavior and pattern and things that I had to grow into to become the person I am. I had to work on my mindset and become much stronger in that area because when you're made to believe that poverty is reality or you're not as mentally sharp as the average person in the world, that tends to that you need to kind of break some of those paradigms, those beliefs that is programmed into you. And that's kind of where I decided that if I need it, then there's other people that need it. And that's why I'm on the path that I'm on right now.
I love that. So you have a chapter in your book called Learning to Love Yourself Unconditionally. I love the self-love topic, which it took me really up into my 30s to actually finally understand that and then the importance of that. Um, so in your book, you wrote, self-love is the foundation of you. Without it, you will always be out of alignment with the true you. So I thought that this was really beautiful and accurate. Can you share your thoughts on self-love and the importance of self-love?
Okay, so as I said, it's the foundation of you. It's like a house without foundation. If you don't have it, then you will always be swept through whatever breeze that blow your way, wherever opportunity that go that way, whether it's energy that's good for you or toxic, you just go in that direction because you have no grounding for who you are as a person. So to me, self love is the most important aspect of you, and learning how to grow and become the true you is the truth of why self love is important.
So what inspired you to share your book? Tell me more about that process. Was this recently? Is this something you've been working on for a while? How did this come about?
All right, so I would say about 2017, I went through a deep depression. I just got to that place in my life that I was not happy. I learned a lot about myself, learned my growth, was talking about self love even then, but I didn't have it for me. And depression is usually because you lack the love within. So when I went through depression, it just took me on this journey of me to self realize and learning that I had some traumas I was holding on to, some things that happened to me as a kid that I held on to, some things that was happening to me now that I never found an answer to. The job that I was working for was not making really anything worth me bringing home, much less take care of my family and stuff. Like I'm a father of a daughter, right? So me going through these situations just put me in this space of just realizing like, yo, I'm not good enough. I'm not happy. So after I got out of depression, I relocated from out of Irvington, New Jersey into Kissimmee, Florida, where I'm at now. And when I realized my book came from this idea because I got into self development and decided to become a motivational speaker since 2015. So around that time, my idea was okay, motivational speaker, I'm supposed to write a book. So I had the book within me for that whole period, but I didn't have nothing to write about. I had a lot of ideas and tips and beliefs and stuff to write about, but I had no lived experience. So once I went through depression, I got over it. I moved down here. I changed my environment. I'm in a much better environment where how I spend money changed, how I looked at life changed. I realized now I have something of substance to put in the book. And that's what drove me to write this book. I started about 2019 and it's published 2020.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you very
Um,
much.
so we can all agree that money is a huge stressor in life, but I love how you point out in your book that even people who have money and lavish lifestyles can be unhappy. How do we get out of that mindset?
You can't buy happiness. Happiness is something that exists within its priceless. If you put a price to it, then you devalued it. The thing about happiness is learning who you are on the inside. That's why, if in my book, each chapter in the book is called process. So it's not chapters, it's process one, process two, whatever. I don't talk about money up until the sixth process because I feel like there's a lot of work you have to do before you even talk about money. And and oftentimes people will jump to the money and then work on everything else. And that's not how that works. Because you can have all the money in the world. At some point, the thing that you thought that would make you happy, once you get it, you realize it's not making you happy. Because happiness starts with within. We live this world, we've been conditioned to live this world from the outside in. When the truth is, we got to live the world from the inside out. If you think that going to buy a brand new car, a Rolls Royce or something of of high value, you go buy it and you think that's going to make you happy until you realize that you got it and you realize there's no fulfillment there because all you did was go and do what you thought would make you happy. Sometimes you got to look within yourself, get to know your heart, and realize that your happiness comes from the things that comes from within, and you get the things externally to support the happiness that you have within. Because if you're happy, you get a Rolls Royce, you're gonna be even more happy because you're already happy, and now you got something that you truly wanted. However, if you think that okay, just getting this very thing in, because there's a lot of unhappy people that got money. There's a lot of people that's depressed that got money. And you know what? They ain't got anything of value because they're not happy. And the truth is, if you really want to attain happiness, you have to look within. Don't look outside of you.
I agree. Another thing that I've learned too personally is that really to get to the other side of that, you really have to go through and you have to acknowledge those traumas and that pain and those things and really deal with it. And that was something that I always kind of struggled with, and I put that to the side. Like a lot of us, I feel we don't want to deal with it, so we kind of turn a blind eye and we just don't pay attention to it, and we think it'll just go away, but it's always there. So do you agree with that? How do you feel about the idea of having to acknowledge that pain in order to heal from it?
You can't heal. Think about it. When a doctor asks you what hurts, they ask you, so you need to acknowledge what hurts so the doctor can know what to treat it. Now, when it comes to anything that's going on within any inner healing, you know what hurts. You know how it feels within. And from there, you have to figure out what is the thing you have to do to work on to make it work. So, and that's the thing that I learned within me because at the same time, you can sit here and talk about healing and feeling good. Like this is not a good process. Like when I talk about leveling up was a painful process. It's like working out. When you work out, it's gonna hurt. Like because growth comes from pain. Pain brings results. And the part of leveling up and the part of getting to this purpose is to acknowledge your traumas. You gotta know what hurts, what's causing you to feel the way you feel. And once you acknowledge it, then you can find a remedy to deal with it. Because you can't remedy something you don't know what it is.
Absolutely. And even the same with relationships. When you're talking earlier about learning to love yourself unconditionally. I mean, if you're not at that place, how do you think the success of a relationship will be?
You can't expect people to love you the way you need to if you don't love you the way you need to. And
Absolutely.
oftentimes, I find people just jump into relationships just for the idea, but don't really have that self understanding to realize what it takes for you to get somebody that aligns with who you are. So, just like with anything else, we date outside ourselves instead of dating within ourselves because it's easy to just find anybody, but you got to find somebody that matches the ideal what you think is perfect or not perfect. I want to say perfect, but what's ideal to you. And if you don't have love for you, then you're not gonna find people that's gonna love you the way you need to be loved. They may be able to
Right.
love you, and they'll be able to love you and treat you the way that they feel is right for them, but it's not gonna be true to you. And at the end of the day, you're not gonna find true love being in a situation like that.
Right, because it also comes down to your self-worth. If you don't have that self-worth and that love for yourself and that respect for your own self, you could tend to be with people who might take advantage of that, and maybe they don't treat you the best because, they know they can get away with stuff, or you'll always say yes because you don't have that solid foundation with yourself to know when to say no, right? And that could
Yes.
apply in even a working environment as well.
Yeah.
So,
And go
oh, go
ahead. I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, go
No,
ahead.
no, I was just piggybacking off what you're saying. Is that that's the major thing that I find people find trouble with is that they just would get into this situation where, okay, I love this person because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do, opposed to doing what is right for you. So that's the thing about when you love yourself and you move to your own, you create the speed that's around you, you create the environment that's around you, you create the circumstances that's around you because you realize that love is not just this idea, but it's a real thing that creates magic around you once you tap into that energy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love all of these points. I think this is so great. And just any way to try to, like you said, level up. I feel like people are always looking for that. So, what do you suggest if, say, you kind of have those bad habits and like that self doubt, and you still are working on self love and all of that? What do you suggest would be like the first step? So, I feel like a lot of us kind of get stuck in our ways. But say someone listening right now, they want to take that next step and they want to start to change and to level up and start to find happiness. Like, what would be the first piece of advice that you'd offer?
All right, so just the first step in anything to treat anything is you have to acknowledge the problem. And when it comes to you, you
Hmm.
have to acknowledge the problems that's caused you. What's making you unhappy? What makes you feel like you need to change? What are those things? Acknowledge what are your pain points. And then once you know your pain points, then you can work on remedying those. And and it's about getting in the right direction because these things don't just happen overnight. You're not just gonna wake up today feel like crap and then just do the work and tomorrow you're gonna feel great. No, it's not gonna happen like that. However, once you start working in that direction, that's when you can start establishing the self love. But you have to know what's missing within you, what's causing you to feel this way, what things you need to subtract, whether it's situations, circumstances, the environment, or even people that's in your life. You have to know what it is you need to take to deal with before you can find a remedy for it.
That's so true. And I feel like a lot of times we don't really see that because we we are our own self living second to second. So we don't really realize the growth until you look back and say, a year or years from now, memories in your Facebook feed, for example, and they show like where you were and you're like, oh my gosh, like you don't realize until something like that happens,
And sometimes, and no, the crazy part is that we're too busy living, so we're doing the work. When you're doing, it's hard to observe what you're doing until it's done. And then you have to move away from that for you to look back and realize what you've done. And I had that moment when I look back at my life recently. I'm sitting here looking at everything. I'm like, man, I came a long way. But the journey don't seem long because you're too busy walking it.
Mm-hmm.
If you get to a point where we get to this point where we're so tired of everything that's happening that we feel like, oh man, I'm so far away from it. But when you just decide to take one step at a time and you just keep progressing, 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 you realize, damn, I got here pretty quickly. Like
Yeah.
that is the duality of life, is that we think the things that we want would take long, but while we're doing it, it comes quickly to us. And not
Yes.
and those dualities is what cause us to realize that life is what we make it, not what we think it is.
I love that. So we have a lot of people in the chronic illness community that listen. Um, so we all tend to, those of us who are in the chronic illness community, we tend to grieve either the life we once had or the life that we can't have, maybe what our chronic illness may be limiting us. And mental health is definitely tough when your physical health isn't well. Do you have any suggestions for those balancing a healthy mindset while chronically ill?
Mm. Listen, let me tell you based off what I've learned. I had a mother that was, she raised us by herself, a single parent. Me and my brother, she raised us majority by ourselves. And like from a young age, she used to do everything, work, clean up, do everything. She was, in my eyes, somebody that couldn't be what it is. She got into a bus accident, just riding on a bus on the New Jersey Transit, got into a bus accident, got a bulging disc, four bulging discs in her neck and back.
Wow.
When I understand chronic situations, from that day, she's never not known pain. She's had to retire early. She can no longer make money the way she makes. She can no longer move the way she did. And that is a very tough thing on the mind because oftentimes what you're used to doing, you can no longer do no more. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm 32 years old, pretty much athletic, built, move around how I can move around. I don't have any struggles in those areas. I don't know what I would do mentally if I was put in that position. But what I would learn to do is to acknowledge what it is and try to find a purpose for your pain. You're going through
Yes,
something
I love
for
that.
you're going through something for a reason. And it's a good thing for you to define the reason. Not to find it, but you define it for yourself because it's purposeful for your life. We often think that we know everything happens for a reason, but we think the reason is somewhere in the atmosphere. But the truth is, the reason is somewhere in here, inside of you. And you have to find that within it, and you have to define it. And once you define it, it'll take you in a direction and put you in a position because sometimes we have these ideas of our life being this way, and we don't think about what could happen and how things could change and what can mess up. So once we learn how to understand the differences of life and understand that the things that happen to us is meant to shape us, not to change us, then you will find comfort in your circumstances. It's not to be perfect. Everybody's going through something different. But if you're dealing with something chronic, find a reason for it and find a path through this. And it might be to help somebody else. It might be to help someone close to you. It might be just for you to define a new way of doing something. Doing something. There was a point in time where a door didn't have a key fob to open it. You had to use a key to open the door. They found a way to use a key fob. How innovative. Sometimes you're going through something to find a new way to do something, do the things that you want to do in your life.
I love that. That's really cool. Thank you. Um, so as far as like going through, healing yourself, and your mindset, do you have any tips, as far as things that make that easier? Like, do you suggest journaling? How do you try to stay focused and on that path?
So I'm as authentic as I can be. So journaling was never the big thing for me. However, I think journaling helps a lot of people. And because yes, I wrote a book, but writing is not my thing. I'll be honest with you. I do not like to write. Even my editor, he said, like when I wrote something, I used to put it so simplistic in the plane, and she will message me like, "Okay, you gotta explain this better." I'm like, "They should get it. It's so simple."
But no,
But
I love it. It's like when I flip through your book, it's a nice, easy read, which is nice. Sometimes I feel like when you get some of those self-help books, they're like overwhelming and just, so much. So I just love how this is very user friendly.
yeah, and that was my intention because I didn't want to create something. Because trust me, I read self-help books too, and the thing would be like, "Geez, like when it's over." And
Yeah.
sometimes you miss out on a lot of information because you're too busy overloaded. There's some books
Yeah.
that I haven't finished because it's like, oh my God, this is so much. And it's overwhelming. And sometimes you just got to put that book down and step away and then get back to it. But I wanted to create a book that's very simple for a person who may not truly understand self work and understanding what I'm talking about. So I wanted to get something that was user friendly, but it's also tried and tested principles that people could realize that okay, you can do this too. So that was my thought process. But things change, so both my editor was like, even though she understands the vision and salute to Stephanie Edwards, she was amazing, and um, even though like she pushed me to get more out of it, and that's why the book is it is what it is, what you got from it, and that was my thing. But I would suggest journaling is one thing to do. Also, ask questions to yourself and allow the universe, allow God, however you describe to the divine creator, whatever you feel it is, allow them to provide the answers. But you have to open yourself and not expect the answers to be the way you think it's going to come. Because it may come in images, it may come in a manifestation, it may come in a way that you may not expect it. But once you open yourself, the, the, one of the greatest quotes from watching a cartoon show called Avatar is that when you reach the bottom, you're open to the biggest change. And when you feel like you're at the bottom, at some point you have to allow yourself to be open because being closed has not worked for you. So you got to be open and realize that. So I would say write it out, listen to videos, audio. Internet is your friend. If you want it to be, it could be your enemy as well if you're looking for the wrong things. But use that, read books, allow the divine creator to manifest things in your path that's going to help you. But all in all, just be true to you and know what's right because you're doing good. Don't I know people who depressed feel like yo, I'm messing up, I'm not getting it right, but you're doing good, and that's the beautiful thing about this.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of times too, that's what makes it so hard for people is that they get kind of closed off and closed minded about other possibilities because it's almost like when you get in that funk, you almost like hyper focus on the things that are wrong or how things should be, and you're not able to see like other possibilities.
Yeah, and the
So
beautiful
I
thing,
like that you said that about
yeah,
being open.
yeah, because at some point you gotta realize that hey, what you think is right may not always be right. Sometimes you could be wrong, and even though you're so passionate, so fiber-eyed, it may not be the very thing that's necessary for you. So sometimes you just gotta take a step back and allow things to unfold the way it's supposed to.
I love it. So I definitely think this book is for everyone. I feel like anyone can pick up this book and read it and learn something from it. And I really admire that. And I appreciate that in a book. I'm usually kind of picky when it comes to books because my attention span, I'm very like ADD. So I definitely highly recommend it. So I also love hearing about what people have in store for their next moves. I'm really curious, what are your plans for the future moving forward now that you got a book out?
All right, so I'm working on my own platform of things I do. So there's a podcast I'm going to be doing very soon. I probably have two different, so it might be. I had two ideas for podcasts. So one I'm going to be doing on my own with everything that's going to get my book and further. But I also have a podcast I'm going to be doing with a partner of mine that I feel like we would give some very interesting content if we were to be in the same space and provide. Um, I'm also working on. I actually got a book signing event in Atlanta coming up.
Oh, cool.
So my goal is to do more book signing events across the country. But also, I'm going to be working on. There's going to be a place where I'm at in the Orlando area where I'm going to be doing a weekly reading, and from there, it's going to be a mastermind group that I'm working on Facebook currently. And then it's going to be a course out this book because the truth is, I wrote this book with the intention of getting you to level up. And yes, reading the book is fine, but driving home those principles is what I'm about. And I feel like I could do that once I should expound upon it in a course or in a fashion or way that people can get it.
Yeah, I love that because sometimes people need accountability. We can read about it and stuff, but when you have someone kind of like making sure you're following up and keeping you on track, like a coach, I think that's always definitely helpful.
Shoot, listen, right now I need accountability, and I'm always the person that's trying to find ways of being held accountable. I'm not afraid of being held accountable, and that's what makes why I do the things I do. Because once you know, because people got to push you. Like I salute my coach, Shakia Diamond, who when she when I used to call her, and she'll sometimes call me like, "Yo, how much of your book you got done? How much did you write today? How much did you do?" I'm like, "I didn't write," and and she would be the one, and she gave me this beautiful tip that helped me through writing this book. She has written seven at this moment,
Oh,
so
wow.
that was somebody I knew that like, okay, I need to make sure I need whatever she give me, I listen. So she told me this picture. Imagine opening the box with full of your books. It's coming to your door at your house. You pick up and you hold the book in your hand. Imagine that feeling. And that literally removed whatever writer's block I was dealing with at those times.
Wow.
And that pushed me to write the book. So that was like a very helpful tip. And for anybody that's looking to write a book, that's a tip I can share with you. Is that at some point you gotta imagine it as real because we see it before it becomes what it is. Every major accomplishment you want in your life, you should envision it first and then allow life to bring it into fruition. Trust me, it's nothing more fulfilling than to envision something in your mind's eye and you can see it with your two eyes. Like it's
Right.
nothing better
And
than that.
and that's what happened because now fast forward, that actually happened. You have your
Yeah,
books in your hand.
yeah, and
Very
then
cool.
from that conversation, I took it further. I imagine myself signing the books and giving it to them, taking pictures with them. Like I imagined this whole process. So when it came real, that was the thing. I was like, oh my god, this works.
Yeah. It's very a rewarding feeling, and I think once that ball starts rolling, you kind of get hooked, and then now you're like, "Okay, what else am I going to
what
envision?"
what else? Now I gotta sign checks. Like it grows. So allow yourself to enjoy and that's the thing that I wanna if I'm gonna say anything to anybody up on this that's listening to this podcast, I want y'all to take this with you. Enjoy the journey. The journey is gonna be filled with pain, filled with hurt, but filled with joy, filled with many things that you gotta do. And sometimes you think that, oh my God, this is taking too long, but no, it's on right time because the time is not the human time, it's the divine time. And everything happens right on time. Everything that happened to you is supposed to happen. Everything that's going to happen is meant to happen, and you're creating it. So enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, because when you look back on this journey, you're going to realize that you went for a ride that the roller coaster at any amusement park that you love to go to can take you on, because you're the one that's controlling the route. You control this whole situation. You control your journey, but you have to allow yourself to take part, feel the pain, feel the hurt, but also feel the reward. Because once you get that reward, you're gonna realize, oh my God, all of that I went through, and I finally got what I want. As a person who wrote a book and a person who's done some good things in their life, I'm telling you that. And I'm pretty sure you guys have accomplished a lot too. So you already know the feeling.
Yeah. I love that. This is such a great conversation. I really think that this can help so many people just trying to change their perspective, trying to find purpose in life, trying to grow and elevate and level up. I think everybody seeks that, but it's really just hard to get that initial push and try to figure out where to start. And I feel like your book helps with that. So thank you for that. Do you have any last minute words of wisdom you want to wrap up with?
Hmm. All right. So um, I think the best thing about life is this: don't be afraid to fail. I
Yes.
failed. I failed many times. I I can tell you now, 2017, no, 2016, I was still working a job making $12 an hour. In 2017, I got a 30% raise. I was making 12.30 an hour. You can change your life like this, but you cannot be afraid to make a mistake. I don't regret not if I had to live life over and I have to make any change, guess what I would change? Not one thing. Because if I change something, I will not be the person I am today. And I love who I am. I deeply love this person. This person who's in front of you, I truly love. I couldn't be this if I wasn't doing the work that I'm doing. So that's the purpose
I
of
love it.
taking this journey. So the best thing I would advise anyone you to do is enjoy the journey. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And if you don't get it right, then guess what? You're gonna get it right the next time. As long as you're alive and you're breathing, you're gonna get it right. Continue to persist, continue to go forward, and never let anyone make you feel like you are not doing what you came here to do, because you're doing everything you came here to do.
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much. And I'm going to have all the links to follow you on social media and a link to your book in the episode notes.
Thank you very much. And I want to, before we go, I want to thank you very much for not only purchasing, reading it, giving the feedback you got it. That makes me feel good that you value my book in many ways, because I truly appreciate it. And thank you for allowing me to be on this platform. I know when we first talked, I expressed it, and I'm glad to be here in this moment. So thank you very much for all you've
Yeah.
done on your end.
Anytime. You're always welcome back. Let me know.
I definitely will, because trust me, there's more I got to share.
I know. I believe it. Thank you.
All right.
Please be sure that you subscribe to the blog, which is bluedreamhealth.com, where you can find additional links and information on this episode. You can also check out the digital magazine on our website, as well as find us on Patreon, where you can be a supporter.